She is a woman known the world over, but truly known by few. From a quiet town in Communist Yugoslavia to the dazzling lights of New York City, from catwalks to campaign trails, from private ambition to public scrutiny, this is the untold journey of Melania. Melania Knaves was born on April 26, 1970, in the riverside town of Sevnica, in what was then the Socialist Republic of Slovenia, a part of Communist Yugoslavia. The world Melania Knaves was born into looked vastly different than it does today. The country we now know as Slovenia was then the Socialist Republic of Slovenia, one of 6 constituent republics of the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. In 1970, Marshal Josip Broz Tito led Yugoslavia, which was a very unique communist state. Though it was authoritarian, it broke away from the Soviet bloc in 1948, forging a non-aligned path between East and West. This offered more openness than other Eastern European regimes, but still demanded loyalty to the state. Slovenia was considered the most prosperous of the Yugoslav republics, more developed, more Western-facing, and with a strong industrial base. Yet, it remained tightly bound to the ideals of collectivism, labor, and political conformity. In the towns and cities of Slovenia, daily life was shaped by the structures of state socialism. Housing was not owned, but assigned. Work was not chosen, but designated. And freedom of speech was a right written in theory, but rarely practiced in reality. Most urban families lived in block housing, government-issued apartments built during the post-war industrial boom. These buildings were often monotonous in appearance, plain concrete facades, stairwells echoing with footsteps, and tiny but functional interiors. A typical apartment housed multiple generations under one roof. Space was limited and privacy was rare. Heating was often centralized and hot water might be rationed. Furnishings were sparse, sourced from state-owned shops with limited variety. Though material wealth was modest, there was a rhythm to life, a predictable, stable routine. Citizens were expected to work in state-assigned jobs, everything from factory floors to bureaucratic offices. Schools emphasized ideological instruction alongside academic education. Children pledged loyalty to the ideals of the Republic. Dissent was quietly discouraged. The young Melania was born into this communist-controlled state housing, a place where freedoms were few and daily life consisted mainly of forced routine. Here, in a town built on cotton and stitches, fashion found its quiet foothold. Every citizen belonged to a system, whether through their workplace union, youth organization, or neighborhood committee. The ideology of brotherhood and unity was promoted constantly, and individual ambition was often viewed with suspicion. But despite these constraints, culture thrived in subtle forms. Many Slovenians embraced literature, art, and even fashion as quiet forms of expression. Families gathered for radio broadcasts, local theater, or neighborhood dances. Holidays were celebrated with communal pride, even under the gaze of the state. Sevnica, Melania's hometown, was a reflection of this balance between industry and identity. Known for its textile production, it was home to women like Melania's mother, Amalia, who worked as a pattern maker for children's clothing. Jobs were steady, if not glamorous. Children like Melania were raised in environments of order and duty, but Melania also found moments of creativity. The factory that Melania's mother worked in organized children's fashion shows to showcase its latest designs. Students were often excused from school to model the clothing. For Melania, these moments would become formative. Even at a young age, Melania showed an eye for beauty and design. She began sewing and customizing her own clothes. In a culture that praised uniformity, she found expression in fabric, color, and form. In her teenage years, Melania stood out, not just for her height or beauty, but for her presence. At 16, she began modeling professionally, working with local photographers and building a portfolio that captured the poise and mystique she carried even then. This was the world Melania Knaves was born into. A world of limited freedoms, but structured stability. A world where choices were few, but dreams were allowed to be dreamt, and they could be quietly nurtured and given an opportunity. Then came 1989. The Berlin Wall fell. Communist regimes across Eastern Europe crumbled. Slovenia would gain independence just 2 years later. But more than politics shifted. This changed everything. Opportunity shifted, and all that nurturing was about to take root. With the Iron Curtain lifted, Western Europe opened its doors to Eastern talent. And Melania, now using the more international spelling, Melania, stepped through those open doors. Melania first moved to Milan, then Paris, the international epicenters of high fashion. In the early 1990s, Milan was a city in motion. It was loud, elegant, unapologetically stylish, the nerve center of European fashion, second only to Paris. Here, fashion was not just clothing, it was economy, art, and identity. And for thousands of young women across the continent, Milan represented possibility. For Melania Knaves, it would become her proving ground. She was in her early 20s when she made the move from Ljubljana to Milan. Tall, with sharp cheekbones and an arresting calm, Melania brought something rare to castings: discipline, professionalism, and a disarming silence. She signed with agencies like ID Models and began the grind. Early mornings, castings in converted studios, endless waiting rooms lined with other hopefuls. Melania wasn't loud, but she stood out. She had a certain regal stillness about her. It was like she wasn't trying to prove anything. That was rare in the Milan modeling world. That unique character of bold but confidently calm made her stand out among the normal, desperate, hyperactive dreamers that Milan normally attracted. Her early work included catalog shoots, beauty campaigns, and runway appearances, nothing yet on the level of supermodels, but consistent, respected work in a highly competitive field. Modeling, for Melania, was a job, approached with a sense of duty rather than hunger for fame. She was punctual, she listened, she adapted. In an industry known for chaos, she was composed. She also knew her limits. She refused nude work, even when it meant turning down campaigns. It wasn't about morality, it was about control. Melania guarded her image closely, even then. Even her look was unique. Beautiful, of course, But her look was considered versatile, able to pass for high fashion in one shoot, commercial in another. But she was also navigating an industry that was, by nature, fleeting. For every dozen models that passed through Milan, only a one or two moved on to global prominence. Melania, however, had a strategy. Milan wasn't the destination. It was a stepping stone. Milan had given her more than a portfolio. It had given her experience, resilience, and most importantly, an understanding of how to navigate power quietly. In Milan, Melania Knavs learned how to survive a world of flashbulbs and fast judgments. She hadn't yet become a star, but she had become unshakable. And then, next stop, Paris, the city of light, the city of love, and the city of haute couture. For a young model in the 1990s, it was both a dream and a crucible. And for Melania Knavs, freshly arrived from Milan, it would become her next test. Having gained steady work in Milan, Melania was scouted for opportunities in Paris, still the uncontested capital of high fashion. Here, the stakes were higher, the competition sharper, the standards less forgiving. Melania found herself in a city where everything, looks, posture, even her accent, was scrutinized. In Milan, she had been seen as polished. In Paris, she was now one of thousands, each more glamorous, more connected, and more daring. Paris was not easy. Modeling apartments were cramped, competitive, and often isolating. Money was tight, jobs were fewer, and for a soft-spoken Slovenian woman with a guarded personality and no French, the city could be unwelcoming. She was beautiful, no doubt, but quiet. Sometimes too quiet. In Paris, if you don't push, you disappear. Melania did not vanish, but she didn't break through either. The most coveted runways and magazines remained just out of her reach in Paris. She worked, yes, but not in the spotlight that Paris so often promised. And yet, Paris left a mark. It taught Melania something Milan had not, that beauty alone was never enough. One needed an angle, a plan, or protection. She learned to be cautious, to watch, to let others speak first. She observed the hierarchy of fashion, the transactional nature of charm, and the way power moved behind the camera, not in front of it. Paris did not crown Melania a star, but it refined her. It hardened her edges and prepared her for the next city that would change everything. Paris had given her poise, but not prominence. And so, when a modeling contact extended an opportunity in New York City, Melania jumped on it. The glamour of Europe had run its course. America, loud, brash, and limitless, was calling. Those who knew her back then described her as focused, reserved, and professional. She was never one for the party scene. She treated modeling as a strictly run business. She spoke 3 languages already. She carried herself with elegance, confidence, and always seemed to be one step ahead. The competition was more fierce in the Big Apple, but so were the rewards. She easily found consistent work and gradually entered elite social circles. It was in 1998, at a Fashion Week party hosted by Paolo Zampoli, that Melania met real estate mogul Donald Trump. He was bold, brash, and already a fixture of New York tabloid culture. He sent his friend over first, Melania said, but I said, if he wants my number, he should come over himself. That evening sparked a courtship that would span years. On again, off again, always watched, always speculated upon. And then in 2005, Melania and Donald married in a lavish ceremony at Lago, attended by the who's who of American power and celebrity. 1 year later, Melania gave birth to their son, Baron William Trump. While Donald remained in the public eye, Melania withdrew. She focused on motherhood, maintaining a quiet and almost elusive presence. She became a U.S. citizen in 2006 and perfected her English, which was her third language by then. The United States of America would now be her new legal home. When Donald Trump announced his candidacy for president in 2015, few expected him to succeed. They called his campaign a joke and a publicity stunt. Fewer still expected that Melania would ever take on the role of First Lady of the United States. Yet, when the votes were counted and the electoral map turned red, history was made. Melania became the second First Lady born outside the United States, the first since Louisa Adams in 1825. As First Lady from 2017 to 2021, Melania carved a unique path. Her signature initiative, Be Best, focused on children's well-being, online safety, and combating cyberbullying. It was met with both praise and criticism. Some questioned its execution, others, its sincerity. Her style, stoic, formal, and deliberate, was a marked contrast to the media-driven frenzy of her husband's presidency. She often chose to remain outside the political fray, emphasizing her role as mother, not politician. From the elegant state visits to her surprise visit to troops overseas, Melania maintained a commitment to poise under pressure. And then, following the surprising comeback of 2024, Melania re-entered the East Wing with a deeper understanding of what it means to be First Lady. This term, she has taken on a more visible role already, reviving Be Best with expanded global initiatives and aligning with women's leadership programs around the world. She has emphasized heritage preservation, children's education, and public health, quietly but persistently building a legacy beyond headlines. Melania has also very recently, at the time of this broadcast, backed the Take It Down Act. The Take It Down Act, short for Tools to Address Known Exploitation by Immobilizing Technological Deepfakes on Websites and Networks, is a landmark bipartisan law passed by Congress in April 2025 to combat the spread of non-consensual intimate imagery, also known as NCII, including AI-generated deepfake pornography and revenge porn. The legislation mandates that online platforms must remove such content within 48 hours of notification, and the law imposes criminal penalties for the offenders. Many of the victims of these crimes commit the unthinkable because of the embarrassment, but also because of the extended humiliation caused by a long red tape delay involved in removing such material. Some victims' fake images or real revenge post images remained online for years and were given time to go viral. First Lady Melania Trump played a pivotal role in championing the act. Reviving her Be Best initiative, she emphasized the importance of protecting children and young adults from malicious online content. In March 2025, she hosted a roundtable on Capitol Hill with lawmakers, survivors, and advocates to discuss the harms of NCII and the necessity of the legislation. Her advocacy was instrumental in garnering bipartisan support for the bill. Upon the House's overwhelming 409-2 vote in favor of the act, Mrs. Trump stated, "Today's bipartisan passage of the Take It Down Act is a powerful statement that we stand united in protecting the dignity, privacy, and safety of our children. Even now, Melania Trump remains something of a paradox, a woman of few words in a world of endless noise. Critics have called her distant. Supporters say she's dignified. Perhaps both are true. She has worn many hats: daughter of a communist worker, international model, immigrant, wife of a mogul, and now twice First Lady of the United States. Yet through it all, she has remained unmistakably Melania, guarded, graceful, and always just beyond reach. From the textile factories of Sevnica to the diplomatic halls of Washington, Melania Trump's story is more than just a footnote in her husband's legacy. It is a study in quiet transformation, in measured elegance, and in the endurance of identity across continents, cultures, and power.